Judd and myself started the band in Auckland. He was at art school. I was sort of gravitating towards all those guys because they looked interesting. It was the combination and chemistry that made it work, and then we had a good team of people around us that we could just kind of get to join in and help out.
I'm just a country boy, can't you see that I'm still green? Raising finance for the day we meet.
Eddie Rayner, who was our keyboard player, was known for dropping clangers, and he said in the press that he'd been in a band 5 years earlier that had been doing what Skyhooks were doing now. So they were so intrigued, particularly Red, Simons and Galinsky. The two of them came and saw us play. Loved it, I suppose. I mean, Michael certainly wanted to sign us straight away.
The rats are crying up me back. It can only mean you're never coming back. But I still think of you when I love.
I'd always looked for bands that were unique, ahead of their time, individual and eccentric, and Split Enz were every bit of that. We invited them to come down and do a Skyhooks show in Melbourne, and they got booed off the stage. And like everyone in my office that was there is going, "Are you sure we want to sign this band?" I've always believed that any reaction is better than none, so I still went ahead and signed them that night.
The first show we did in Melbourne was playing with Skyhooks and AC/DC at Festival Hall, and there were a lot of Sharpies there because they were really into AC/DC, less so into Skyhooks, I think. And in fact, years later, Magda Zubanski, who I admire greatly as a comedian, she said to me that she was there, she was a Sharpie, and she booed along with everybody. But, you know, she said that secretly she loved us, but she couldn't show it. I think Michael profoundly misunderstood us, though. He thought we were the next Skyhooks.
They mostly thought that I thought they were just another Skyhooks. And look, in a sense, they were a bit of a Skyhooks in the sense that they were bizarre, colourful and unique, but they were very much deeper and very much more artistic.
They weren't just funny, the costumes and makeup. To us, they were sort of multi-level. There were certainly elements of amusement and music hall and clown-like aspects, but they were also dark, twisted, sort of odd. You know, like when you give a middle-class Christian boy a tab of acid and sort of ask him to write down what he sees, it would probably bear some relationship to what we looked like. Noel Crombie was known for his eccentric displays. Every Friday night he'd walk down the main street of Auckland dressed in something that he'd made himself and produced magnificent reactions from passers-by.
It seemed like standing, posturing in front of people with tight jeans or something just wasn't enough, you know. You're just playing at them, you know. We wanted to develop it a bit more.
My father was a Rotarian. He was fined for having a son who looked like me. Neil joined in 1977.
It was the year punk exploded onto the world scene. And the year I joined Split Enz, plucked from being a hospital orderly to recording my first album in London.
When Mike said, think about Neil again, it was like, yeah, obvious. And it was great because Neil said, I'll think about it. I always thought that was probably the coolest thing he's ever done. And about an hour later, he said, yeah, all right, great.
England was tough for the Enz, but when they came back to Australia, they were bigger than ever.
Michael came across at some point, I don't know if it was 78, it probably was, I suppose trying to coax us back to Australia in some way.
They really pressured me to go and live in England when they went over there, and they never really succeeded in England, but they were very, very successful cult-wise, and they could fill a 2,000-seat venue, and they had a really core following, but they never had that hit song.
I went out to see if I could fall in love again. That was my mistake. That was my mistake.
He figured that we'd do well back in Australia and that there was an audience there just waiting for us, and there was. You know, we filled rooms straight away and everybody was benefiting.
My mistake. When all I needed was a friend to make me stop and think again, to pull me up.
I remember one time when they were trying to sort of like cut costs, get rid of bands that weren't doing so well. And I stupidly said, well, yeah, Split Enz is costing you a lot of money, Mike. Maybe you should consider them. No way, slapping his shoulder, you're gone mad. And back in me dead, I mean, like 4 or 5 months later, Split Enz brings out their album and like the biggest album they'd ever had and became like Bang Bang.
When I heard the True Colours Split Enz album, and I sat in the studio and heard the whole album, and the album was unbelievable. In fact, it was so unbelievable that I turned around to them and I said, look, this is a fantastic album, but I don't know what the first single is.
Got you. That's all I want.
So sure enough, as it became folklore in Australian rock history, Michael Gudinski said there's no single on the album, which is not what I said, but I didn't know what the first single is.
Don't go out.
I'm more of a 2-3 listen person, and after listening to the Split Enz album, of course, I Got You was one of the biggest hits Mushrooms ever had and the biggest single Split Enz ever had.
I don't know why sometimes I get frightened.
Sometimes hits are flukes or they're not what you expect, but in this case, I think we all had an expectation for that song.
Well, there were a number of factors, I suppose, why True Colours was as big as it was. One was FM radio was just starting at that stage and was begging for material like that, so it got enormous exposure, and not just one song was played off the album at that stage. The other thing that I think has to be said is that Neil Finn, as a songwriter, really hit his straps by the time he got to this, and it's evident from the success of the album.
For us listening back to True Colours now, it sounds a little too simple to stand the test of time as much as some of the other albums, perhaps. It's also probably because it got thrashed on radio so much that it might heartily sick of it.
That's history. I say history never repeats. I tell myself before I go to sleep. Don't say the words you might regret. I lost before, you know I can't forget.
I decided to leave Split Enz in 1983. It had been 12 years, and I always believed that you should walk away from something if it starts to lose its spark. It felt like a good time to leave, and I didn't have any qualms about it, and in fact, no one was that surprised either.
The fact of the matter is that I have never been in another band. As much as I've loved playing with Split Enz and it's been a fantastic education for me and a great experience, I just felt like as a person I needed a change.
Well, without any doubt, Split Enz were one of the greatest bands in the world, full stop.